Sit down, because here comes a story. Picture Bulgaria in 1911, a place full of green fields, wooden houses, and chickens wandering around freer than your neighbor's Wi-Fi. In the middle of all that, a little girl named Vangelia Pandiva Dimitrova was born, but since no one had the breath to say that whole name, people just started calling her Vanga. Little Vanga's life was simple. She helped around the house, played hide-and-seek with her siblings, and loved making up stories for the kids in the village. She was that kind of curious child who asks 1,000 questions per minute, you know? Like, why is the sky blue? Why doesn't a chicken wear shoes? Why does the wind make noise when it passes by the window? One fine day, or actually a rather gloomy one, the weather decided to throw a tantrum. The sky darkened, the wind started howling, and nature seemed to be in a mood. Everyone ran home, except Vanga, who thought it was a great idea to play outside. Yep, the girl was curious, and just a tiny bit stubborn. Suddenly, a huge gust of wind came out of nowhere, the kind that messes up even your thoughts. The wind swirled around her, lifting dust, sand, hair, everything. It looked like nature's own blender. When the wind finally calmed down, Vanga stood still, scared, trying to understand what had just happened. After that, things were never the same. The girl noticed that the world had become different. She didn't see things the way she used to, literally. But in a strange way, she started to feel everything more intensely. The wind, the sounds, the people. It was as if she traded her eyes for a giant antenna of sensations. And here's the curious part, she started to guess things. Like, she'd say the neighbor's dog was going to run away, and the dog did. She'd say it was going to rain, and the sky would open up. The villagers began giving her that look that says, this girl knows too much. And just like that, right in the middle of a storm, the legend of Baba Vanga was born, the girl who couldn't see the world, but could see beyond it. So, remember little Vanga, the one who basically turned into a human antenna after that big gust of wind? Well, she grew up, and so did her supernatural talent for knowing everything before it happened. Her family found it fascinating, but also kind of spooky. Imagine this, you're having breakfast, and the girl calmly says, "Mom, don't bother looking for the blue bucket today. It's behind the fence." And guess what? It actually was. At first, people thought it was luck. Then, coincidence. But when she started nailing even the exact time the neighbor would show up to gossip, folks went, "Okay, this is officially turning into magic." Vanga began to notice that the voices in her head, which she said were like soft whispers, would tell her little things about what was about to happen. It was as if the universe itself had become a gossip and chose her to pass on the messages. And the funny thing is, she didn't say any of it in a dramatic movie tone. Nope. It was all casual, like, "Oh, don't take that road today, okay? Your wheel's gonna give up on you." And there went the stubborn guy ignoring her, only to come back later, sweating and pushing his cart, thinking, "Man, this girl's got spiritual GPS." As time went on, her fame spread. People started coming from far away, like a school field trip, just to hear Vanga's advice. She'd welcome everyone with her calm demeanor, sip her tea, and drop a few sentences that made visitors leave scratching their heads, wondering, wait, was she talking to me, or to the entire universe? The village folks respected her so much that she basically became the region's spiritual Google. Lost something? Ask Vanga. Want to know if your relationship's gonna work out? Ask Vanga. Thinking about planting potatoes or wheat? Yep, ask Vanga too. And she'd answer everything with that serene look of someone who already knows how the soap opera ends. But what amazed people the most was the peace she radiated. Even without seeing the world like everyone else, it seemed like she could see much more. It was as if the universe had given her a special subscription to the premium vision package. And so, from a curious little girl, Vanga became the one who could see the invisible, the woman who turned mystery into wisdom, and the wind into a message. So the little girl who talked to the wind grew up and became Baba Vanga, the woman everyone in Bulgaria wanted to meet. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. From the nosy neighbor to the fancy politician who pretended not to believe but secretly showed up just to check. During World War II, the buzz around her became like a worldwide trend, only without the internet. Imagine that power. People would say things like, "She knows who's coming back from the war. She knows where the soldier lost his hat. She even knows when the soup's going to burn." Okay, maybe that last one's an exaggeration, but who's to say it isn't true? Her house was always packed. People would show up with flowers, gifts, homemade bread, and of course, a long list of questions. There were lines for everything. To ask if a son was coming home soon, if an old flame still thought about them, or even if it was a good idea to plant tomatoes under that moon. And Vanga would answer everything calmly, sipping tea and speaking softly, like a grandma who knows way more than she lets on. The funniest thing? She never bragged. While people stood there wide-eyed, she'd just say things like, "Oh, it's not me who sees. The wind tells me." Or, "The souls whisper to me." And everyone would nod, pretending they understood, to look spiritually up-to-date. Her fame grew so much that the Bulgarian government, which used to roll its eyes at her, decided to make things official. And just like that, Baba Vanga basically became a public servant of destiny. She started receiving visitors by appointment, with an actual schedule. Imagine that, a psychic with office hours. If she'd had a time clock, the universe itself would have punched it for her. People said she was so accurate that even the leaders went there secretly to ask for a few light predictions. But she never saw herself as important. She'd always say, "I just deliver the message. What you do with it is your problem." Wise woman, huh? Over time, Baba Vanga became a legend. People would travel for days just to see her, and many left saying they felt lighter, though their minds were spinning like after a philosophy class when you're not sure if you understood everything or nothing at all. She became a symbol of hope. In a tough time when the world was a mess, she reminded people to believe in something greater, even if that something came in the form of wind, hot tea, and a calm gaze. And so, amid all the chaos and cosmic gossip, Baba Vanga became a living legend, the simple woman with a gentle voice who seemed to chat directly with the universe. So, remember that sweet little old lady who sipped tea and gave advice full of wisdom? Well, that cutie became a worldwide icon, like a celebrity from beyond. People from all over the world started knocking on her door, wanting to know what the future held. Journalists, politicians, scientists, curious folks, and even that friend who pretends to be skeptical but never misses a chance to ask, "Vanga, will I get married soon, or am I stuck with my cat forever?" And that's when things got serious, in a good way, of course. Baba Vanga started making predictions that would make people's hair stand on end, and mind you, it wasn't even horror stuff. She spoke about big things, the kind that seemed impossible. For example, she said the Soviet Union would fall apart, and people thought it was a joke, until one fine day, poof, it happened. She mentioned a great wave that would swallow cities, and years later, the world saw the famous 2004 tsunami. She talked about twin towers falling in smoke, and back then, people didn't even get what she meant. She even mentioned something like an invisible web connecting the whole planet, which many believe was her predicting the internet. Imagine Vanga trying to explain TikTok. Her spirit would have needed a manual. Now a detail. She never spoke directly, like this will happen on this exact day. None of that. She spoke as if she were describing a kind of mysterious dream. "I see iron breaking in the sky and smoke covering the world." And people would be like, "Is this poetry, or a spoiler for the future?" Of course, some didn't believe her. There's always that, "Oh, it's just a coincidence" crowd. But there were also those who left her house swearing she was like a direct line to the universe. No Wi-Fi needed. The most impressive thing is that she never sought fame for it. While the whole world talked about her predictions, she kept doing her thing, taking care of plants, drinking tea, and talking to the wind. She said she didn't choose what she saw, the messages just came. It was like the universe saying, "Vanga, jot this down to warn people, okay?" And she'd reply, "Okay, but let me rest a bit afterward, my tea is getting cold." And so between visions, metaphors, and predictions no one understood until it was too late, Baba Vanga became the most famous clairvoyant of the century. Some were scared, others curious, but everyone agreed on one thing. She saw the world through the eyes of the soul, and honestly, it seemed like she had an unlimited data plan straight to the future. So after years of listening to the wind, giving advice to half the world, and leaving everyone speechless with her visions, Baba Vanga had become an almost sacred figure. She was no longer just the village seer, she was the Baba Vanga, with a capital T, respected, visited, admired, and of course a little feared, because what if she guessed what you were thinking, right? Her little house, simple and full of plants, had become a kind of temple of wisdom. There were always people knocking on the door, crying mothers, indecisive youngsters, curious elders, and even those types who'd show up saying, "Oh, I don't believe in that stuff," while already rehearsing their question. Vanga welcomed everyone with her same calm demeanor. She'd serve tea, sit in her chair, and listen to their stories with full attention. She never judged anyone. She'd just drop one of those mysterious phrases that made people leave wondering, "Wait, was she talking about my problem or the world's problem?" Scientists started getting interested in her too. They came from far away, armed with notebooks, recorders, and questions like, "How do you know these things, Ms. Vanga?" And she'd calmly reply, "I don't know. I just listen." And that was it. The researcher would just freeze with his pen in midair, staring into space, contemplating life, the universe, and everything in between. Many said that being near her was a unique experience. Even without sight, it felt like she could see people's souls. They say she only needed to hold someone's hand for a few seconds before saying something like, "You carry a weight in your heart, but it's not yours. It belongs to someone else." And the person would already leave crying and hugging the nearest dog on the street. The once simple and quiet village became a spiritual tourist spot. People from all over the world went there seeking advice, peace, and a bit of that serene wisdom that seemed to live in Baba Vanga's voice. It was as if she were a translator of the universe. She took what came from the stars and turned it into simple words anyone could understand. And the most beautiful part? She never thought of herself as special. She always said her gift was a present, not for her, but for the world. "What I do," she used to say, "is help people hear what their hearts already know, but the noise of the world doesn't let them listen to." And that's why her home became known as a place of light and calm, where even the wind seemed to whisper more softly, so it wouldn't interrupt. Baba Vanga wasn't an ordinary woman. She was a living reminder that wisdom doesn't come from what we see, but from what we feel. And between one prediction and another, one cup of tea and a laugh, she kept teaching the world how to listen to silence, the kind that carries the answers no one can quite put into words. And so, my dear ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the grand finale of the story of Baba Vanga, the woman who became friends with the wind, a partner of destiny, and let's be honest, the universe's favorite gossip. As the years went by, Vanga became a gentle old lady with a calm voice, a serene gaze, even without sight, and a wisdom so deep it could tie anyone's mind in knots. She lived peacefully in her little house, surrounded by flowers, visitors, and that lovely herbal scent that made you want to move in just to breathe a bit of that peace in the air. Even in her old age, she kept welcoming people from all over the world. There were folks coming from Germany, Russia, Italy, and even from those tiny villages that don't even show up on maps. Everyone wanted to know the same thing: what does the future hold for me? And Vanga, with that tone of someone who talks straight to the universe, would drop a line that sounded like poetry. The future arrives when the heart is ready to listen. And that was it. People would leave her place convinced their lives were about to change. Maybe they'd become monks, or at the very least, start drinking chamomile tea every day. But the most beautiful thing was how she inspired others. Even without seeing the world, she helped the whole world see differently. She taught that you don't need to see to believe, nor have all the answers to have faith. And that, my friend, is a rare gift, the kind you can't buy or learn from an online course. When Baba Vanga rested in 1996, the whole world felt it. But no one stayed sad for long, because it seemed like her energy was still there, floating in the air, like a soft breeze that makes the curtains dance. After all, she used to say that life doesn't end, it just changes form. After that, her name became legend. Books were written, documentaries made, studies published, and even today, there are people who swear they still dream of her giving them advice. Others claim her last prophecies are still hidden, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Like spoilers of the future the universe is keeping to avoid ruining the surprise. And the most curious part? Even though she's no longer here, Baba Vanga is still around. Every time someone trusts their intuition, listens to their heart, or believes the wind might be carrying a message, there she is, smiling from above and saying, "See? I told you the universe speaks to us. You just have to pay attention." And that's how the story ends. The story of a woman who didn't need eyes to see, nor maps to find her way. She saw with her spirit, felt with her heart, and taught the whole world to do the same. Because, in the end, Baba Vanga didn't just predict the future. She reminded us of something far more important. That true vision comes from within, and that destiny sometimes speaks softly, in the language of the wind. So that's today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next story.